evening, everyone. This is plusnine here on the Voxel box. So before we begin today, we're going to look at just 3 ways of modifying your voxel gadget that will help you save space and make your gadgets ultimately more versatile. This is a create delete voxel gadget, so you can see over here we've got an iron block, and then if I switch it, we've got a diamond block right here. So what we want to do is set these up just like a normal piston flip-flop, and what it's going to do is it'll just switch that block behind the dispenser from iron to diamond, and that will produce our create delete kind of on-off switch style voxel gadget. This flip-flop design is really handy and allows you to, rather than set up and then have to sequence 2 different gadgets, all you have to do is sequence a switch and then pulse that same gadget again down the same wire. This can save a lot of space on your gadgets. This next one, rather than pistoning in a create delete, this one pistons in a piece of red cloth. I'll switch it here so you can see it. And what red cloth is an override block. So if we look inside this dispenser, we notice that it's got a purple block in it, and over here there's actually a green block that's come out of it. And that's because when this red block is slotted into our voxel gadget's tail, it will say, rather than use the block inside the dispenser, use the block behind me, which is this green block here. So now when I cycle this thing, this voxel gadget will fire purple cloth, and now that that red cloth is in place, the next time I pump this button, it'll make that green instead. So rather than an on-off, this is an alternator. So here's another way to get one single gadget targeting 2 blocks in the same place. The other way we could do this, like we saw in the other video, where I made a light switch. Let's say in this instance we'll put glowstone in the dispenser, and then as an override, actually we should probably do that backwards because I can't run wire. There. So we'll put glass in our dispenser, glowstone right there, connect our wire back up, and now we've got a light switch. So pistoning in blocks into our voxel gadget's tail is another way to go. Similarly, we can also use piston blocks to knock in or out blocks out of our distance tail, which allows you to use one gadget to target multiple coordinates out to the side. And that's what this setup is. This setup is basically a long sequence from button over there where the obsidian block is that will send a pulse down this clock, which does multiple things. The first thing it'll do is it'll pulse each of those individual pistons, which in this instance is going to knock our distance offset blocks out of that chain. The other thing it's going to do is it's going to actually pulse this dispenser each time to get it to do its operation. So the first time it fires, it's going to fire a block 9 blocks away, and then the next time 8, and then 7, and then 6, and finally 5. And this produces a kind of almost laser-like effect. So I'm going to hit this button, and then we'll watch our gadget fire. And we're going to look at some VoxelGadget water fountains today. Clearly a lot of people liked the water fountain in the first gadget video, so we thought for our first gadget tutorial that's what we would talk about, is how to deal with water with your gadgets. A lot of people notice that there's a clear illusion going on here, because how am I keeping this water in one single tube without it spreading out until it gets to the top? And the answer to that is I have created an invisible border of stair blocks. You can kind of see that little black outline there. That's where the stair block is. And if I do a ball replace brush on them, you can actually see, oh, well, they're not, there actually is something there all the time. It's just an invisible block. So if I start this clock again, you'll see that the fountain operates totally identically to how it was before. There comes our water gush up the top. And it's just kind of falling around the sides there and giving that nice splash effect. Turn these back into invisible stair blocks. The way that you get invisible stair blocks is by putting in bizarre values for, it works with lots of stair blocks. I just tend to use the wood ones. And I like to use data value 4, but I know people that use 5, and I know people that use -1. So now that we've got our invisible column back in place, we'll go ahead and turn our fountain on, and we'll take a little bit of a closer look at our gadget setup, look at how it works and why it works. So over here we've just got a typical clock. It's on a nice long delay, and that just gives the water long enough time to drain out before it sends another pulse of water down it. So that's what this is. Over here you've got a very standard redstone pulse limiter. This is pretty standard issue. Lots of YouTube videos already on how to build pulse limiters like that, and that's how I learned from all of you guys. And over here we have our gadget array, and so what you can see is I've got a 5 tall fountain, and dispensers wire kind of funny, so you have to be a little picky about how you put your gadgets together. So here's my diamond block. That diamond block is my deletion unit, and this determines the range, just like we saw in the first video. We're going to count 1 block out for the diamond and then 5 extra ones, and that gets us to the length of our fountain. Similarly, these ones behind here are 2 blocks behind on the dispenser, so they only need an offset of 3 to be targeting the same column. And that's how I get my vertical column deleter. And over here is the column creator, which you can just use pretty much the same thing. The only difference is that it offsets for a larger amount. And that's what places our water. And then these over here on their own little delays place the water, and that's how we get our little spurt. The actual, you can see here, the invisible blocks here, we're going up, 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 and then right where the water is going to spill out over the top, there's no column of invisible stair there anymore. And that's what lets the water spill over and gives that nice, satisfying, watery sploosh effect. So that's pretty much it. There's your VoxelGadget Water Fountain, the basic edition, and now we're going to take this to the crazy level with our good buddy TheWoodyMan. We are going to turn to the VoxelBox admin and one of our resident redstone experts, TheWoodyMan, who's going to help me put together an even better version of this fountain that shoots not just straight up and down, but kind of on an arc. So we've done a lot of setup work here. This is the device we're going to look at. This is the big brother to my first sploosh fountain, and what it does is it's going to shoot an arc of water. You can see where we had invisible stairs earlier. I've replaced those kind of temporarily with glass, so you can get an idea for the kind of water container that we had to build that we're going to wrap our fountain around. Water's going to shoot just in between those glass blocks there and fall down at strategic points and give us a nice kind of really fountainy, watery arc.
Alright, our gadget dispensers are lined up 1 block below the pool here. You can see just underneath the light stone if you look through the pool. There's A row of gadget dispensers. Those are powered by a sequence set that triggers in order to perform the animation that we want. You'll actually be able to see them in action here in a little bit. Just below that, you will see there are iron blocks that tell the dispenser to place. That's simple and covered in most of the gadget tutorials. Followed by our offset blocks. You can figure out how those work at our wiki of those. Down below that, you'll find the override blocks. Now these are the special part of this design, as they will override the placement of water, which is what these dispensers do. So the system will cycle twice, once without the override blocks, followed by once with the override blocks. If Plus happens to get over close enough here, you can see underneath the override blocks are invisible blocks. Them are what we're going to project in place of the water to make it go away. And I will fire this once and give a demo and explain a little more. Now, as what happens is the first pulse will come through and place the water, followed very quickly, within a couple of ticks, by our pulse that places the invisible stair blocks. So that causes the water to look like it's spraying. Now, after Plus has turned the glass blocks into invisible stair blocks, we now have a channel for the water to flow in that is invisible from afar. So we'll fire it again and you'll get the effect of water spraying. This one actually uses a add and a remove stack that are timed just a little bit apart from each other to give a fountain effect, and I have a series of those chained together to make a wave style fountain. What we have here is a fountain that is programmable. You can adjust height and duration. I'm going to show you a quick height adjustment. This here is how she operates normally. Now you can see it only progresses up 3 blocks. The only thing I change is the place function. I don't change the remove function because it can still remove above the water, so it doesn't matter. You won't notice any of that happening. We come along the back here, and you can actually reprogram the height and duration with a simple decoder system back here. This is the same decoder that you'll see on a whole lot of redstone creations. They're pretty popular. So I'm going to adjust this to go all the way up to its max height of 6 blocks. There we go. Now this should travel up 5 blocks as opposed to the 2 blocks.